people, good evening. It is going down here. Breakdown 502. Your boy Raashaan Myers coming to you live on a very happy and joyous Tuesday night as the Cards get some good information. They get a new commitment. Everybody's excited. Everybody's happy. I myself am happy because I have my Twitter handle back. I may not have all of my people and all of my stuff the way I want it yet, but it's all right. It seems like it's been one of those, I don't know what they call it, but the whole, everything that can go wrong does go wrong. Whatever that saying is. Yes, a whole lot of that going on right now. But that's all right. That's all right. I had to get everything up and rolling tonight. Didn't have my full setup. Unfortunately, I don't know what was happening with that, but I definitely wanted to get on and just talk about the Cardinals, talk about the new commitment, Alvaro Figueres. The big man, 6'10", 230 pounds, Spaniard via Iowa. This has been like a lot like Zugris last year. Everybody remembers that Big Zoo committed. But for whatever reason, it took forever before Big Zoo finally got announced as part of the Cardinals recruiting class. I don't really know what that was at that time. And I, don't really know what took Fulgaris so long to get included as part of the recruiting class this year. But hey, they got it done. They got it completed. And it's a big get, man. I don't think that you can understate just how much this commitment means, especially when you look at the portal in general. There's so many, there's so many guys that there are only so many guys out there, and I think that you really have to understand that, especially at that power forward spot, there's just not a lot of guys. I mean, look at the University of Kentucky. UK has thought that they were going to get their guy, quote unquote, for a while now, and they've not been able to get that done. So I'm not going to look in the mouth. I definitely take that. And I do want to say, before I start getting super big into the nuts and bolts of what Fulgaris' commitment means and where Louisville kind of goes from there, I want to thank everybody for all, supporting me through, my account gets hacked. I lose my @Raashaan tag. Handle username. I switched to Raashaan Myers. Then for whatever reason, that one just completely gets, put on ice and gets suspended. So, but that did give me the opportunity to get back my OG tag. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of folks on there right now. I'm going to have to build back up my followers. So any chance you get to retweet and tell everybody to follow me, please do that. Share this video, like it, retweet it, and just say, man, make sure y'all follow Raashaan. I'm going to get it all the way back. You know what they said, when they burn Rome down, they built back bigger. So I'm going to get it back. But it is annoying and frustrating. But no, back to Fulgaris. The biggest thing that I like about this commitment is when you look at the power forward market, especially for the super talented power forwards, there are not a lot of those guys. There are not a lot of big time players at that 4 spot. And the thing that Fulgaris gives Louisville, first of all, we no longer have to deal with the undersized lineups. Thank the Lord. So, I am super excited with the fact that we don't have to deal with that anymore. I think that, you're not going to see Javon Hadley out there. You're not going to see, Kason Pryor wasn't undersized, but he really didn't get to play much when he was out there. Didn't get to see him much. So then you were dealing with Kanai, who had the size, but had the height, but didn't necessarily have the size and physicality. Well, Fulgaris, y'all, is a much different player. I know when you look at his numbers, 8 points, almost 4 rebounds, they don't really jump off the page at you. And that worry. People want to say, okay, is this dude really going to be able to get it done? Is this guy a player that's going to help? I don't know about him. I remember when Louisville was looking at Deshaun Good, a lot of people were saying, I'd rather have Deshaun Good than have Fulgaris. Okay, well, I'm just going to tell you, first of all, Deshaun Good is not as good a player as Fulgaris. And Deshaun Good, I wish him luck down there in Miami. To me, he was always going to come to Louisville as a reserve player. He was going to be Louisville's kind of go-to guy off the bench at that forward spot and kind of be able to help Louisville out there as a small ball 5 or a 4. I don't think that, Good has necessarily the athleticism required to be a big time starter at a Power 5 team that's got aspirations of a Final Four or to make a big run or a big push. So, with that being the case, I think that Fulgaris is a guy that gives you the perfect blend of size and strength. He's very physical at 6'10", 230, but he also gives you a lot of the same things that Ali Khalifa gave Louisville last year. So imagine, and, calm down, because I'm not saying that the kid is, Magic Johnson or LeBron James or anything, but imagine a guy who can give you all of Ali Khalifa's vision and passing in a body that can actually move, a guy who, is good enough and will dunk on you and can just be very, very physical. That's what Fulgaris is giving you. I feel like he's the perfect guy to go next to Flory Badunga. He's a guy who's a adept three-point shooter. He can go out there. He can knock it down. So he gives you that versatility to where he can be a pick and pop guy. He can be a pick and roll guy. He can handle the ball and do some of the things up top that, Pat Kelsey has enjoyed in his first 2 years at Louisville, but he also gives you the ability to play a lot more physical as well. So, I feel like he's a guy who's going to help kind of meld what Pat Kelsey has done through the first 2 years and what they want to do moving forward. I really just am super, super excited to see how Fulgaris blends with everybody else. I think that I'm going to tell you what, Pat Kelsey could not have done better with the 4 guys that he has brought in to begin this transfer portal class. When you look at Jackson Shelstad, one of the best point guards in the portal, a guy who gives you that athleticism, quickness, and burst that you haven't had in years there. You look at Carter Knox in terms of being an athletic wing guy with size, ball handling ability, physicality, the ability to finish at all 3 levels as a creator himself with the ball in his hands. And then you add to that the 2 guys down low in Fulgaris and Flory Badunga. Badunga's more than likely going to be a preseason first-team All-American, and Fulgaris is probably going to be one of your best stretch 4s in the country, with his ability to pass it and shoot it and then go and dunk on you driving to the rim. I love what they've done. And honestly, with this core 4 group, I know a lot of people are bummed about John Blackwell. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I did not, for what John Blackwell was going to cost, to me, I don't necessarily think you needed to go out there and spend the type of money that you did or that you were for a guy of John Blackwell's talent. I think that Blackwell's a nice guy to have, but I don't know if he was going to be worth the price tag that he was going to get. I've been told by so many people that Blackwell is this just must-have dude. And while I like him and while I think that he's a good player at 6'4", strong, but not, uber athletic, to me, I just never saw what a lot of people saw in Blackwell. Not to say that he's not going to be awesome for Duke. Congratulations to them. That's not sour grapes at all. I just felt that, Shelstad is going to be a monster in the pick and roll game. He's a guy who can pick and roll. He can pull up and shoot the jump shot. Very good in the mid range, and he's excellent getting to the rim. So I feel like with the gravitational pull of him, now you're going to have Flory Badunga in the dunker spot, and Fulgaris is going to be more of your pick and roll guy. with Flory down there in that pick and roll area, and then Carter Knox as a threat from the wing to catch and attack. The gravitational pull of those four players, to me, the shooting guard spot is going to be a spot where you just get a guy who is a dyed-in-the-wool scorer. I don't think you necessarily have to have a multi-dimensional type guy. If you saw what Blackwell talked about on Twitter today and some of his comments to Phil to 68 and others, he's talking about, I see myself as a point guard. I see myself as a guy who's going to have the ball in my hands, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. While it's nice to have another guy that can do that, and we know that Louisville has not had enough ball handling over the last couple of years, I don't necessarily think you needed to have a guy like that. I know it's going to say odd to say this, but if you give me a Ryan Conwell or a guy like that, even if he's slightly undersized, I'd like, Conwell being 6'2.5", 6'3" hurt Louisville at times. So I definitely would like somebody a little bit taller than Conwell. But if you give me a guy who's just a dude that can get buckets with the guys that you have in this starting lineup, I feel like you can find a mid-major guy. I feel like you can find a guy who maybe is coming up and stepping up a level, and he can thrive, because I feel like the other four guys that are on the court are all going to be threats offensively. So when you have four guys that you're going to have to worry about, you're going to have to guard, and you're going to have to defend, and they can attack from all three levels, that two guard does not have to be great. That's why, honestly, I love the ability of being able to have Adrian Woolley as that sixth man off the bench. If Woolley did end up becoming your starter, I think that Adrian Woolley would absolutely flourish in that role this year. I think that one of the biggest issues with Woolley last year is he was being asked to do a lot of things that he just was not comfortable with and he had not done previously. This past year, he was asked to either be the point guard or the small forward. Guess what, y'all? Adrian Woolley was neither a point guard nor a small forward. And because he spent most of his time at the one and at the three, he was never really as comfortable as he should have been. In times where he was able to basically purely be a pure wing, two-guard type scorer is when he played his best. And that's why I feel that this year, regardless of whether it's coming off the bench or starting at that two spot, I think Woolley is prepped to have a big-time step up this year. I think he's going to be a lot better. So, to me, I don't think you needed to have a fifth star in this group. Now, that's not to say that if certain guys do fall from the trees, and some of the people that we've heard that could possibly at the 11th hour here, we only have 55 minutes left until the transfer portal's closed. If Christian Anderson decides to drop his name in and Louisville would have a shot to go get him, I would say definitely go get him. If a guy like, Tunde Yesufu, who just put his name in the portal, if Tunde Yesufu decides not to go to the NBA draft, you go after Tunde Yesufu. So, to me, there's definitely a lot of things that can happen that I like. There's a lot of things and a lot of opportunity, where we can see Louisville improve this, but I don't think that John Blackwell is a deal breaker. To me, if you can go out and spend half of what you were on John Blackwell on a really solid guy who's just a dyed-in-the-wool scorer and put him there, I think that Louisville could, still have a really successful guy in that starting lineup, and then spend some of that extra money to bring in and make sure that a Gabe Dines or, whoever you want to go with your big men off the bench and kind of your defensive specialists and a couple of shooting specialists off the bench, you can spend more money to get more guys or more quality guys so you can have that 8 or 9 guys off the bench. Looking at some of these comments coming in on here. Let's see. LA Lakers says BBN is heated seeing U of L do their thing. Yeah, hey, Kentucky, I don't know what's going on with the Cats. That whatever's happening with them, God bless them. But I'm gonna put it like this. I don't think nobody wants to play for Pope. Pope is a weirdo. He's an oddball, and nobody really wants to deal with any of that. I mean, he's just odd, man, and it is what it is. Cause UK fans, I keep seeing all these UK fans talk about, yeah, we can still get Yesafu, we can still get Tyrant Stokes, we can still get this and still get that. It's not gonna happen. Like I don't see it happening. Lakers, LA Lakers 17 also says, of course, let's go Lakers. He's sending some of that. And I'm doing my KD Twitter thing. I don't know. Look, man, this was a mercy. To me, it was worth it to get the people the information that they needed. So I had to do what I needed to do. Cell phone, Twitter, whatever, live, but I needed to get out there and get it in front of the people. So, all right. So where do we go from here? I agree that Louisville still has a lot of work to do. I am not as, I've seen a lot of people panicking and talking about, oh my gosh, what's going to happen with Blackwell. But I want to tell you something that I have not talked about yet, or I have not addressed, is the fact that I don't think people are really understanding how huge it is to get Adrian Woolley back. Just like we talked about, the fact that Woolley could be a great player off the bench or a great player in the starting lineup. Adrian Woolley really started to come on at the end of the year. His confidence, his ability to knock down big shots, to show that fearlessness, once he finally got unlocked to be allowed to drive and be physical going to the basket, I really feel like retaining him. Just think about this, y'all. If Adrian Woolley was going into the portal, and he was a dude that was going into the portal, he's a guy who would have been a top 25 player in the portal. I don't know if he would have been top 20, top 15, top 25. He would have been in that top 25 somewhere. So that, everybody always wants to celebrate who Louisville is bringing in, but retaining Adrian Woolley, who was probably the most successful guy with additional eligibility left. I know a lot of people love Kenai Roots, but to me, Adrian Woolley was the best guy that Louisville had that had the opportunity to come back, because we all knew Michael Brown was going pro. So you weren't going to be able to see him anymore. So with that being the case, being able to bring back Adrian Woolley, in my personal opinion, I think that's going to pay huge dividends. I think that Woolley is going to have a monster year, and he's going to have the opportunity to get on some draft boards next year. I just think that, I know that people have wondered, what's Louisville going to do? What system are they going to employ? What are they going to look like next year? I think Louisville's going to be a basketball team next year. Like, one of the biggest things, like, I don't want to call it a gimmick, but this whole, we're going to come down, we're going to shoot 35 threes, all this system stuff. To me, watching these teams play over the last several years, whether it be Michigan, whether it be UConn, whether it be Florida, whether it be whoever, it's getting back to teams. Just at the end of the day, it's not about gimmicks. It's about playing basketball and having hoopers and having a well-balanced team, guys who can defend, guys who can shoot, guys who can handle and stretch the floor, guys who can knock down free throws. It all matters. Like, at the end of the day, I think that Louisville is getting back to just getting the best basketball team and going out there and playing solid, fundamental basketball in all phases. And I know that's, not some big fancy, we're going to go out here and we're going to have this system to get it all done. But I think that Louisville's getting back to hooping. And while I think that Pat Kelsey is still going to play a more up-tempo style, I don't think that's going away. And I think that he's still going to value the three-point shot as a very valuable shot. I don't think that they're going to all of a sudden turn to old school Denny Crum and we're not going to shoot threes anymore. I don't think that's going to happen. I just think that Louisville's going to start to be more sound from all three levels, which was the problem last year. It felt like, Louisville was a team that just did not do enough to attack you from all phases and all parts of the court. And by having a team that only exclusively wanted to shoot threes, it made it exceedingly difficult to have any sort of consistency offensively. I mean, this was a team that struggled to score mightily too many times last year. So now with having a dude like Flory that you're going to have to worry about on the lob or catching the ball in the middle of the lane because of what he can do. When you have a guy like Fulgaris who can, handle the ball off the bounce if he needs to and get to the rim, or pop out and knock down the three. When you have a Carter Knox who is as athletic as they get with length and explosiveness, a guy who can create his own shot in the mid-range as well as from the perimeter. When you have all these guys that can do so many things inside the lane, including Jackson Shelstad and what he can do off the dribble, all that does is keep you honest. Just imagine if you could have a guy like Isaac McNeely or a guy like Ryan Conwell getting jump shots and three-point shots that they can actually step into and shoot. I think that's what Louisville's going to do. I still think that they're going to go in and they're going to find at least a couple of shooters to go along. Like Shelstad can knock down the three. Fulgaris can knock down the three. Carter Knox is a scorer, but he can also knock down the three as well. I think that Louisville's going to still add a couple of true knockdown shooters. I don't think that they're going to do a Mark Pope and just completely go away from shooting the ball and forget to add shooters. I don't think that's going to happen. I do think that one guy that's not been talked about that obviously at this point is not going into the portal, is London Johnson. I think that London Johnson got a bad rap because he did not go out there and decide to play with Louisville this year. From everything that was understood, London Johnson's not playing this season was not about the fact that London was not good enough to play. It was about the fact that London did not want to take a pay cut, which I understand. If he was going to come in and play a half of the season, he was only going to get paid for a half season's worth of pay, and then he would only have one more season of college basketball. So, I mean, would you miss out on half of a season's salary? Nobody's going to do that. And, I understand Louisville saying, well, we're not going to pay you a full year's salary for half a season's worth of work. So I understood it from both ends. Louisville fans didn't like it. I think they kind of said, okay, well, London Johnson, he must not have been good enough to play. That's why he didn't play. No, I don't think it was that. I think that was all about finances. I think London's a very good player. I think he's a guy who can help Louisville. He's a guy with good size, 6'3", 6'4", point guard, combo guard, a guy who can attack off the bounce. He can finish in the lane. He's a very good and solid defender. He can score from all three levels. So with this new kind of emphasis on being sound at all three levels, I think having London Johnson as as one of your backup guards, I think is huge. Now, I want to say that one of the shooters that Louisville brings in, I need that guy to also be an adept ball handler. I don't want to see Louisville get into a situation where, if Shelstad goes down with an injury, God forbid, I don't need a situation where we only have one other guy who can, dribble the ball, or you're having to deal with Adrian Woolley going back to the two. I think that Louisville definitely still are going back to the one. I think that Louisville definitely still wants to add another point guard, and I think that will happen. I think they will add one more ball-handling guard that can also be a knockdown shooter. And I think you can find that at the mid-major level. I think you can find that even at the low-major level. One of the things that's been very transferable, as we've seen in the transfer portal, has been guards coming up, moving up, and still being able to give you similar production. And I think that when you have such a strong starting lineup with Louisville, what Louisville has right now, you don't have to be a star. Everybody on the bench, you got to understand, you have your multi-dimensional guy in Adrian Woolley off the bench. And if you can find a multi-dimensional post player, a guy who can give you some athleticism, run the floor, block some shots, and hopefully finish around the paint with a little bit of touch. If you have those two guys, everybody else can be a specialist. You get a specialist defender, somebody who can be kind of your walk in and be your combo forward that can play out there and lock down on the perimeter. And then you want to add, a knockdown shooter. You just want to get a couple of guys, and you can find specialist guys at the mid-major level that isn't going to break the bank, but also is going to give you proven production. I definitely think that's something that we will see happen. LA Lakers says, now let's go get some knockdown shooters. Yeah, I think that's what Louisville's going to do. I don't have an issue with that. And I think that you're going to see that. So, anybody who's afraid that Louisville's about to become, I don't know, a Big Ten team or anything like that, I don't think that's the case. I think that there's still going to be a lot of three-pointers going up. I still think that I could see Louisville in that probably 25 to 30 threes per game in certain games. Like, there may be some games where Louisville is maybe right around 20 3-pointers attempted, 20, 21, 22, 23, just because they do have it going, getting to the rim or getting fouled. But I think that they're still going to shoot the three a lot. I don't think that this is going to be a situation where now Louisville's slowing it down. Now we're trying to play games in the 60s like, Rick was doing here. LA Lakers says, why BBN is still begging for Stokes? Evidently, they don't want to play for. He doesn't want to play for Kentucky because he would have to sign weeks ago. Well, I mean, I don't think that's true. I think that UK would wait for Tyron Stokes until school started, honestly. But I just don't think Stokes wants to play for Kentucky. I don't think any of these guys. Like, at some point, because Mark Pope is throwing money out there, somebody's going to sign. There's going to be some pretty good players that sign there. But a lot of these guys that have good options and have options to go places where you can make just as much money, I just don't think, and play for good programs, I don't think they want to deal with Pope. I mean, it's not a fluke that Rob Wright turns you down when it looks like he was all done for Kentucky. Donnie Freeman looks like he was all done for Kentucky and then leaves. Tyron Stokes, who wants to play for a Nike school, is from the state of Kentucky, is not, getting it done for Kentucky. These dudes do not want to play for Mark Pope. So, I mean, it is what it is. Kentucky will figure out what they're doing, but all I know is this, y'all. With the way things are going right now, Louisville has not beaten UK in Rupp since the late 2000s, the 2000s. So I believe it was 2007 is the last time that Louisville was beating Kentucky in Rupp. Right now, I'm telling you, it looks like ass whooping coming in Rupp this year. Like, I cannot wait. With the guys right now, I don't care. You want to talk about Alex Wilkins and Zoom Diallo and whoever else they got, bringing back Malachi Marino. With the dogs that Louisville has brought in so far, I foresee a paddling coming to them Wildcats this year. I don't give a damn when they play the game. They can play it in early November. They can play it in late December. I don't care when they play the game. Right now, whatever's happening down there, I think Louisville has the squad for it. Now, what I will tell you is this. Expect to see a lot of news come out very quickly. I think that we could hear about some visits upcoming very soon. I think that now that Fulgaris is in the fold, and now that John Blackwell has made his decision to commit to Duke, I think you'll start to hear about some visits upcoming pretty quickly. I expect that Louisville's going to move pretty fast. Once, now that those guys have announced, now that the portal is closing here in about 40 minutes, and they know exactly who's out there and who they can target, I think that you're going to see Louisville try to go ahead and get that done. I think that Pat Kelsey and the coaching staff has done an excellent job of playing the portal game the right way. I know a lot of people have been nervous, and there hasn't been any signings, and there's a lot of guys that have been jumping off the board, but I feel like they got off to such a good start, getting such a strong core four to begin, as well as retaining Adrian Woolley. That gave Louisville some time to kind of be calm, see who's coming out there, and really be selective in who they go after next. And they also wanted to make sure they kept it quiet, because they knew for Blackwell, you have to put away so much money that you don't want to start looking at guys and not knowing exactly how much money you can spend, if that makes sense. Now, if a guy like Tunde Yesufu wants to be a part, if he liked what Louisville's saying and decided he wanted to come for a visit, you may see Louisville slow play it a little bit more to get a guy like Tunde to come in. But outside of a guy like Yesufu or Christian Anderson, I don't foresee Louisville going out there and forking out buku bucks for anybody else. So at that point, they'll kind of lock in on what targets they have, and they'll probably start to get this moving. I think at this point, you can expect that Louisville's going to more than likely sign at least 3 or 4 more guys for the rotation. I think that you're going to see an 8 or 9 man rotation, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they might not fill out a couple of more guys to fill out maybe some depth pieces, whether it be true freshmen coming in or maybe some younger players coming up from a lower level that they can develop. I would not be surprised to see that as well. But super, super excited. I wanted to hop on here, spend a few minutes. Like I said, I promised every player, every commitment, I'm going to get out here. I'm going to get on here. Thanks, everybody, for following me. Please like and retweet. Let everybody know that you guys can get at me at Raashaan, Raashaan. I am back. I need y'all's help getting me built back up, getting my followers back up, but I'm going to be here. We'll be breaking it down. Romy Bean, Haven Harrington, they will be back with me. Hopefully I'll have my computer up and working so I'm not doing this from the freaking cell phone again, but it is what it is. Y'all were worth it. I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. And like we always say, without struggle, there is no progress. Peace. Good night, y'all.